The man or woman who has experienced it knows the exact moment. It is a neurological shockwave that feels like a divine intervention, a collision of worlds, the sudden, overwhelming, and utterly irrational certainty that the person standing across the room is not merely human, but the single missing piece of their incomplete universe. This phenomenon is enshrined in culture as destiny, fate, true love. It is the mythical lightning strike of passion, an experience so potent it overrides logic, destroys caution, and compels two complete strangers to reorient their entire lives around a shared, blinding delusion. Everyone who has been hijacked by this force calls it a miracle. Carl Jung called it a profound misidentification. He saw this sudden perfect fusion not as the arrival of a soulmate, but as the activation of a biological imperative disguised by the most seductive psychological trap known to mankind. It is the moment we stop perceiving reality and start projecting an archetype. It is the instant the unconscious takes the driver's seat and directs the entire machinery of human motivation toward a goal that has nothing to do with happiness and everything to do with psychological confrontation. We believe we are finding our other half. Jung argues we are simply encountering our own shadow, projected onto the most beautiful and terrifying screen available. Before diving into the mechanism of the trap, the foundation must be set. The psyche, according to Jung, is not a clean, singular structure. It is a dynamic constellation of systems, forces, and inherited patterns known as archetypes. The most critical of these forces in the context of romantic fixation is the hidden opposite within. For the man, it is the anima, the unconscious feminine principle. For the woman, it is the animus, the unconscious masculine principle. These internal figures represent everything the conscious self lacks, fears, or has suppressed. They are the repository of rejected emotional depth, sensitivity, power, and vulnerability. And when this internal opposite is starved, it does not wait patiently. It demands integration. This need for integration creates a psychic vacuum, a profound sense of incompleteness, and the unconscious solution to this vacuum is elegantly brutal. It crafts a perfect template of the missing piece and then frantically searches the external world for a suitable host. This search is silent, continuous, and highly focused. Then one day, the target appears. It does not need to be a logical match. It only needs to possess a few key features, a specific look, a particular mannerism, or a resonance that triggers the deep, primordial recognition. That is the moment of the lightning strike. This universal hijacking transcends all boundaries. It doesn't matter your age, profession, or level of self-awareness. The power of the archetype is primordial. It ignores your intellect. This feeling of being irrevocably pulled toward another person is a core human experience that defines so much of our struggle and triumph. We are all susceptible to this gravitational pull, this profound psychic urgency. It raises a fascinating question about the scope of this shared vulnerability. Tell me this. Where are you right now experiencing this examination of the deepest human forces? Drop your city in the comments. We are creating a global register of this psychological confrontation. When the projection lands, the person being loved is instantly, dramatically elevated. They cease being a complex, flawed human being. They become the bearer of the internal god or goddess. They are perceived as perfection, pure potential, flawless connection, the absolute answer to every internal conflict. The man does not see a woman. He sees the ideal anima, the feminine mystery that promises to restore his soul. The woman does not see a man. She sees the perfect animus, a powerful, wise, protective, and decisive force that promises to anchor her identity. The energy generated by this sudden, perfect union is overwhelming. It is intoxicating. It is the source of the obsessive focus, the inability to sleep, the rush of hormones that mimics a powerful addictive drug. The individual is not in love with the person. They are utterly addicted to their own projected perfection. This initial phase is the deepest part of the biological trap, and it is universally celebrated precisely because it offers a temporary, fraudulent sense of wholeness. For a brief, intoxicating period, the individual feels complete. They no longer feel the internal friction of their own shadow. They no longer suffer from the loneliness of their own incompleteness, because all of that missing material has been externalized and seemingly made manifest in the beloved. This is the biological and evolutionary masterpiece. The intense focus guarantees pairing, bonding, and reproduction. Nature does not care if you are happy. Nature cares that you pair up and propagate the species. The chemical cocktail released by this projection, dopamine, norepinephrine, oxytocin, ensures that the coupling is fast, intense, and emotionally binding. This high-intensity emotional state is chemically indistinguishable from severe psychological obsession. The problem, the inevitable disaster that defines all romantic tragedies, arises because the perfect partner does not exist. No human being can withstand the gravitational pressure of holding an entire archetype. The weight of someone else's unconscious perfection is crushing, and sooner or later reality forces its way back into the narrative. The projection begins to fail. The flaw begins to show. The goddess suddenly leaves her socks on the floor. The god reveals a petty insecurity or a profound weakness. The projection flickers and then fails dramatically, revealing the simple, flawed human beneath the facade. Jung described this as the moment the psychic fuse blows. When the projection cracks, the individual feels betrayed, devastated, and completely confused. How could the perfect person they fell in love with suddenly become so disappointing, so ordinary, so frustratingly real? The natural reaction is often aggression, disappointment, and an intense desire to fix the beloved back into the archetype, to force them to be the person they were supposed to be. This is the origin of countless relationship conflicts, the desperate fight to maintain a shared illusion long past its expiration date. The devastating truth is that the beloved did not change. The observer merely stopped being psychologically blind. The biological trap is cemented in the sheer difficulty of withdrawing this projection. The individual has invested their entire sense of wholeness, their missing parts, into the external person. To withdraw the projection feels like a terrifying act of psychological amputation. It means consciously reclaiming the shadow, the anima or the animus, and integrating that material back into the self. This process is painful, lengthy, and necessitates confronting the very aspects of the self that were originally rejected, the parts that made them feel incomplete in the first place. This is the central paradox. We seek love to avoid loneliness, but the intense initial love only guarantees a more profound loneliness later, when the true work begins. The goal of the trap, according to Jungian analysis, is not the union with the external person, but the confrontation with the self. Romantic love is merely the mechanism, the powerful lure that drags us, kicking and screaming, into the necessary, difficult path of individuation. The intense pain that follows the crash is not meaningless suffering. It is the raw fuel for psychological growth. It demands that the individual asks the critical question, what was I truly looking for in that person? And the answer is always, myself. The individual who remains ignorant of this mechanism is destined to repeat the cycle eternally. They jump from one relationship high to the next, constantly searching for a new host for the projection, constantly chasing the feeling of temporary wholeness. They become serial idealizers, forever surprised and devastated when their chosen deity turns out to be mortal. This pattern traps them in a cycle of addictive dependency, where true intimacy, which requires seeing and accepting the reality of the other person, flaws and all, is impossible. They are addicted to the feeling of falling in love, not the challenging practice of being in love. Being in love, the mature, conscious form of connection, requires the intentional withdrawal of the projection. It requires seeing the other person not as the perfect solution to your problems, but as a complex, independent entity that you choose to honor and cherish despite their inherent flaws. It is an act of will, not a neurological accident. It is sober, difficult, and infinitely more rewarding than the intoxicating but fleeting rush of the projection phase. The projection phase is a childish, ego-driven demand for completeness. The mature phase is a conscious decision for shared, mutual existence. Jung understood that this initial blinding passion is a necessary illusion. We need the intensity to form the initial bond. Without the overwhelming force of the archetype, we would likely never commit to the challenging and often frustrating reality of long-term partnership. The biological trap serves its evolutionary purpose. But for the psychologically mature individual, the moment the projection fails is not the end of love, but the real beginning of the relationship. It is the moment the drama ends, and the hard, quiet work of truly knowing another human being starts. This realization changes everything about how we approach commitment, betrayal, and heartbreak. It reframes devastation not as failure, but as a mandatory psychological initiation. The initial rush of romantic love is therefore the most powerful manifestation of the unconscious will to wholeness. It is a massive energetic charge, an almost spiritual experience that feels like the ultimate meaning of life, yet it is simultaneously a profound deception. It is an internal hallucination projected onto the world, forcing a confrontation that the individual desperately needs, but consciously avoids. The person who embraces this truth, that the ecstatic feeling of finding the one is really the terrifying realization of finding yourself, is the person who begins the path toward genuine self-knowledge. This confrontation is difficult, but avoiding it means condemning yourself to a life dictated by unconscious forces, forever seeking external rescue from internal problems. We have established the foundational mechanism, the blinding projection of the Anima and Animus as the biological trap behind romantic love. You now possess the context to understand the gravitational pull of attraction, not as magic, but as mathematics. Share the name of the archetype that controls your initial loves, the invisible force driving your choices. Comment right now with the affirmation, "The archetype is real." This wisdom is foundational for navigating the landscape of modern relationships. Secure your place in this journey toward psychological freedom. Hit subscribe immediately. Like this narrative to ensure this critical knowledge is recognized globally. We have defined the trap, but defining the trap is only the first step toward freedom. The next narrative will dissect the 4 catastrophic stages of love addiction and reveal exactly how to separate your destiny from your biology. That pivotal confrontation is waiting for you. The moment arrives not heralded by trumpets or the slow creep of doubt, but by the sudden, terrifying realization that the person standing across from you, the one deemed perfect, the irreplaceable anchor of your entire emotional universe, is merely human. This collision, the instant when the divine image shatters against the rough edge of mundane reality, is not the end of a relationship, but the catastrophic hinge of the psyche. This is the biological trap revealing its true function. It is designed to lure us into a union so intensely projected, so fundamentally unstable, that its inevitable collapse forces a confrontation with the self. This initial, breathtaking phase of romantic love, described by Jung as the highest psychological tension, is nothing less than the unconscious mind using the body and the heart to stage a necessary intervention. It is a psycho-spiritual ambush disguised as destiny, a profound and necessary trick played by nature to compel growth. To understand the architecture of this trap, one must delve deeper than mere attraction, venturing into the labyrinthine structures of the Anima and Animus. These archetypes are not quaint psychological theories. They are the highly charged, often chaotic representations of the contrasexual soul dwelling within the unconscious. For the man, the Anima embodies his repressed feminine qualities, intuition, emotional depth, sensitivity, everything he has been culturally or personally compelled to reject or ignore. For the woman, the Animus embodies the corresponding masculine qualities, assertiveness, logical structure, aggressive drive. When these figures remain submerged and unintegrated, they do not simply vanish, they project. They seek completion externally, desperately scanning the horizon for a suitable vessel, a living human being capable of carrying the burden of their divine, yet unlived potential. The partner we fall in love with is not loved for who they are, but because they possess the perfect hook upon which the unconscious hangs its most valuable and most terrifying contents. The velocity and intensity of the falling, the overwhelming certainty that this connection transcends mere choice, derives precisely from this archetypal urgency. It feels fated because it is an urgent psychic mandate. The unconscious is shouting, demanding integration and using the intoxicating chemical rush of limerence, the biological engine of romance, to ensure compliance. The chosen partner becomes, in effect, a psychological hostage, held captive by the lover's projected needs. They are seen not as an autonomous individual with their own flaws and complexities, but as a walking, breathing symbol. They are the god or goddess who holds the key to the lover's hidden self. Yet this high-stakes game guarantees instability. No mortal can indefinitely sustain a deity's role. No human personality can perfectly align with the magnificent, impossible expectations of an archetype. This inevitable failure is the second, most painful phase of the trap. And yet this experience is universal. We see it in the intense, almost manic recounting of initial meetings, in the declaration of instant soulmate connections, in the rush to fuse identities and obliterate boundaries. Before we proceed into the mechanics of the collapse, pause for a moment and recognize this shared experience of humanity, this essential vulnerability. In which city, right now, are you witnessing this exploration of the soul's deepest machinery? The transition from the magical dawn of projection to the harsh reality of disillusionment is often brutal, marked by escalating conflict and profound psychological confusion. The moment the partner inevitably fails to live up to the projected image, when the goddess exhibits petty jealousy, or the knight in shining armor shows emotional weakness, the psyche registers not a minor disappointment, but a cosmic betrayal. The reaction is disproportionate: rage, grief, withdrawal, and a consuming sense that the partner has fundamentally changed, or worse, deliberately deceived. This is the ego, still clinging fiercely to the idea that external perfection holds the key to internal wholeness, refusing to acknowledge the internal source of the problem. The lover insists, through arguments and recriminations, that the partner must return to the pedestal, must resume the role of the integrated anima or animus, thereby attempting to force the external world back into alignment with the internal delusion. This refusal to accept the partner's inherent humanity is the mechanism that perpetuates suffering within the trap. When the projection is active, the relationship is thrilling but superficial. It is not a relationship between two individuals, but between two egos and four archetypes. The true individuals remain obscured by the powerful masks of their projected shadows. When the projection begins to dissolve, when the mirror cracks, the individuals are suddenly exposed, often realizing they fundamentally dislike or barely know the person they have tethered their life to. This is the moment the biological mandate, to reproduce and ensure survival through pair bonding, begins to war violently with the psychological mandate, to achieve self-awareness. The initial success of the biological trap was in fusing two people. The psychological challenge lies in successfully separating them, not necessarily physically, but psychologically, allowing both entities to reclaim the energy that was outsourced. The energy that was once bound up in idealizing the partner must now be consciously withdrawn and reintegrated. This is the painful process of reclamation. It means confronting the contents of the anima or animus directly, without the buffer of the external object. For the man, this means recognizing and accepting his own irrational emotionality, his need for connection, his creative spontaneity, the inner woman he sought externally. For the woman, it means embracing her own capacity for decisive action, aggressive professional pursuit, and intellectual authority, the inner man she projected onto her mate. This task is inherently threatening to the ego, which had found comfort in the apparent stability of the external bond, regardless of how illusory that stability might have been. To withdraw the projection feels like losing a limb, because psychologically that part of the self has been living outside the body, animating the partner. Furthermore, this withdrawal demands a confrontation not only with the anima animus, but also with the shadow. The shadow contains all the rejected, darker aspects of the self, the jealousy, the pettiness, the selfish desires, the capacities for cruelty, qualities that are often initially perceived only in the partner during the period of disillusionment. He is so controlling, the woman might assert, unaware that she has projected her own unacknowledged desire for control onto him. She is so needy, the man complains, failing to recognize the mirror reflecting his own suppressed emotional dependency. The biological trap ensures that the love object acts as a giant psychological waste bin for these undesirable characteristics. Therefore, when the projection is withdrawn, the shadow contents return home, manifesting as intense self-criticism, existential dread, or even a sudden inexplicable shift in personality. This is the moment when therapeutic intervention often becomes essential, as the individual is faced with the uncomfortable truth that the monster they were fighting externally was, in fact, a disowned part of themselves. Jung maintained that true maturity, the beginning of the path toward individuation, requires enduring this painful phase of disintegration. Most people, however, terrified by the emptiness left by the collapsed projection and the return of the shadow, execute a psychological retreat. They abandon the crucible of the broken relationship, or stay in it while shutting down emotionally, and immediately seek a new object onto which they can reproject the exact same set of unintegrated needs. They look for a partner who looks different, perhaps, but who functions identically as a carrier for the anima or animus. This cyclical repetition is the heart of the biological trap's insidious nature. It guarantees intense emotional drama, but prevents genuine self-knowledge. The pattern repeats: dazzling initial projection, inevitable shattering, desperate flight, followed by a renewed, fated connection with the next unsuspecting carrier. The individual remains perpetually stalled at the threshold of growth, mistaking the thrill of the chase and the intensity of the collapse for the actual work of love. This avoidance mechanism is precisely what transforms the potential for profound insight into chronic misery. The person trapped in this cycle is constantly focused on external repair, attempting to fix the flaw in the partner, the flaw in the relationship, or the flaw in the circumstances without ever realizing the flaw resides in the map they are using, the internal, unexamined map of their own unconscious desires. They become experts in relational drama, but novices in self-mastery. The emotional landscape becomes a repetitive pattern of euphoria, followed by devastation, a biological roller coaster designed not for lasting happiness, but for evolutionary efficiency, getting people together long enough to mate, and then leaving them to clean up the psychological wreckage. To break free, the individual must learn the art of discerning the difference between genuine, mature love, which is based on the appreciation of the partner's reality and the shared navigation of two separate inner worlds, and archetypal obsession, which is based on the neurotic need for completion. This requires an almost clinical detachment from the overwhelming emotional data supplied by the trap. The pain of disillusionment must not be interpreted as rejection, but as a directional signal pointing inward. The discomfort experienced when the partner fails to behave as the idealized figure is not a sign of the partner's maliciousness. It is the anima or animus demanding attention from its rightful owner. This internal shift is monumental, moving the relationship from the realm of fate, the biological trap, to the realm of choice, conscious love. The process of reabsorption, taking back the projection, is lengthy, demanding, and utterly anti-romantic in the conventional sense. It requires facing the terrifying fact that the very qualities one desperately sought in the partner were the qualities one lacked the courage to develop within oneself. It requires a radical shift from "you complete me" to "I am responsible for my own completion." When this process begins, the energy invested in the partner is freed up to fuel the individual's own projects, creativity, and inner life. The man begins to explore his emotional depth. The woman begins to assert her professional competence. The relationship, whether it survives or not, transforms from a neurotic symbiotic bond into a supportive adult alliance, where two integrated people choose to share a journey rather than desperately needing one another to exist. This journey is fraught with resistance because the ego, having invested so much time and emotional capital in the illusion of external salvation, fights tooth and nail to maintain the status quo. It would rather stay miserably married to the projection than face the magnificent, terrifying task of self-integration. The biological trap succeeds not just by attracting us, but by making the escape path seem unbearably arduous and lonely. Yet Jung insists that this withdrawal is the single most defining task of the second half of life, the pivot from youthful external striving to mature internal realization. The individual must step into the void left by the shattered God, accepting the ambiguity, the lack of certainty, and the profound aloneness that comes with self-responsibility. This is not the conclusion, but the necessary foundation for the next stage of psychological development, where the individual, having survived the wreckage of their own romantic fantasy, stands poised to build something authentic, something that transcends the limitations of the biological imperative. We are all wrestling with the remnants of these projections, every single one of us. This journey of self-reclamation demands tremendous courage, and the realization that the work is internal is often the hardest truth to swallow. If the insight that the problem was never truly external resonated with the depths of your own experience, then share this profound internal shift. For our collective growth, tell us in the comments, "The mirror cracked, and I saw myself." Your affirmation of this hard-won truth empowers the collective journey of self-discovery. This revelation is too important to keep hidden. Join this rare community of seekers by subscribing and tapping the like button. We are unlocking the deepest secrets of the human condition together, moving from emotional chaos towards psychological mastery. And as we continue to map the architecture of the soul, prepare yourself. We have explored the trap and the disillusionment, but the final, transformative step, the true act of spiritual alchemy, awaits in our next crucial exploration. Stay with us as we reveal the ultimate path to turning emotional wreckage into lasting wisdom. We now arrive at the decisive, devastating realization, the moment the curtain is torn away, revealing not the face of a god or goddess, but merely another human being struggling with the same fears, the same shadows, and the same fundamental inadequacy that we possess. This is not the betrayal of the lover. This is the betrayal of biology. Carl Jung understood this shattering transition as the pivotal crisis in adult psychological development. The biological trap, having successfully compelled two individuals to unite for the sake of propagation, whether actual or metaphorical, now withdraws its euphoric chemical support. The magnificent psychic energy, the golden fire of projection that made the other person everything, suddenly sputters, flickers, and dies, plunging the relationship into a cold, hard, unromantic reality. The question is no longer, will we survive this ecstasy, but will we survive this sobriety? This collapse of the projection is often mistaken for the death of love, but Jung argues it is merely the death of infatuation, which is the necessary, intoxicating prelude to possible love. The function of infatuation was never personal. It was reproductive. It was the ancestral call, the imperative of the species masking itself as divine destiny. Now the species is satisfied, and the individual is left holding the empty vessel of a shattered illusion. This is the point of ethical and existential divergence. When the anima or the animus projection shatters, the vast, overwhelming psychic energy that was externally focused on the partner rushes back home, overwhelming the ego. The lover finds themselves staring into a void where they once saw a miracle, and the mirror they had placed before the other person now flips to face them. For the first time, they are forced to confront the immense power, the incredible beauty, the terrifying shadow, and the deep, unmet psychological needs that they had foolishly placed outside themselves. We are forced to ask, what do we do with this sudden, devastating sobriety? The vast majority of people, unprepared for the sheer psychological burden of integrating this returning energy, choose the path of repetition. They cannot bear the weight of their own unconscious content. They cannot face the realization that the perfection they sought in the other person was an internal capacity they refused to develop. So, they instinctively seek a new container, a new vessel, a new unsuspecting host onto whom they can project their internal God image. They leave the relationship, believing the failure lay in the partner's imperfections, when in truth, the failure lay in their own refusal to become conscious. They become the serial romantics, the eternal adolescents of love, forever chasing the anima animus in fleeting external forms, cycling endlessly through euphoria and disillusionment, confusing biochemical dependency with spiritual connection. They are trapped not by the partner they left, but by their own unconsciousness. Now that we have reached the core of this psychological drama, where the biological imperative dissolves into the psychological crisis, tell us, from which city are you engaging with this profound truth? Carl Jung offers the alternative path, the path of individuation. He insists that the suffering caused by the disillusionment is precisely the point of the biological trap. That powerful initial attraction was never a map to a perfect mate. It was a spiritual flare, illuminating the exact components of the soul that are currently missing from conscious life. The lover who saw absolute courage in their partner must now ask, where is that courage repressed within me? The woman who saw profound wisdom in the man must now ask, where is my own internal source of wisdom, my own mature animus that I have externalized? Individuation demands the immense, grueling task of retrieving the projection. It is the work of turning outward fascination inward. It is the spiritual alchemy of transforming the relationship from one based on need, I need you to complete me, to one based on choice, I choose to stand complete beside you. This is the moment when we must consciously retrieve the projected anima or animus and integrate it into the structure of the self, thereby enlarging our personality and becoming whole. The relationship, if it survives this crisis, is entirely reborn. It moves from the realm of eros, passionate, necessary biological connection, to agape, conscious, voluntary, spiritual love. This mature love is radically different from the initial intoxication. It is quieter, more disciplined, and often less thrilling in the conventional sense, precisely because it is no longer fueled by neurotic necessity or biochemical urgency. Jung speaks of the ethical demand inherent in this phase. True love in the mature sense is an affirmation of the other person, despite their flaws, and more importantly, despite the shattering of our perfect image of them. It is the willingness to see the partner not as the vessel for our missing pieces, but as a separate autonomous individual who is also struggling to integrate their own shadow and achieve their own individuation. This transition requires courage, a conscious commitment to reality and a rejection of the romantic fantasy that society so heavily promotes. To remain in a conscious relationship after the projection has collapsed is to enter the opus contra naturam, the work against nature. Nature is satisfied once procreation is secure and wants the individuals to move on or stagnate. The psychological task demands that we continue the relationship for the purpose of mutual conscious evolution. The relationship becomes a crucible, a sacred psychological space where two individuals agree to hold up mirrors to each other's shadows, accepting the responsibility for the uncomfortable truths revealed. The greatest danger in this final stage is the temptation toward resentment. The disillusioned lover, having invested their psychic capital in an illusion, often feels cheated, robbed of their perfect dream. They resent the partner for being imperfect, and they resent themselves for having been fooled. This resentment is the toxic energy that kills most mature relationships before they even begin. Jung advises that this resentment must be redirected into the process of internal growth. The bitterness is merely the raw, powerful energy of the unintegrated anima or animus, demanding to be utilized for self-development. Consider the profound paradox. The biological trap of romantic love, designed by evolution purely for utility, turns out to be the single most potent spiritual catalyst available to the human being. The trap was never designed to keep us bound to a person. It was designed to shatter the ego's complacency and force us onto the path of destiny, the path of becoming who we truly are. The agony of disillusionment is merely the labor pain preceding the birth of the conscious self. When we retrieve the projection, we gain an enormous amount of autonomy. The former dependence on the partner for validation, meaning, or excitement dissolves. We become the source of our own meaning. We are no longer half a person seeking a missing half. We become a whole person choosing to engage with another whole person. This is the foundation of genuine partnership, a union of two independent selves, not a merging of two dependent neuroses. The goal is not to eliminate attraction or passion. The goal is to own it, to recognize that the intense pull is a function of our own psychology, not a supernatural sign that this external person holds the key to our salvation. We learn to appreciate the partner for who they are, a flawed, complex, beautiful human, without burdening them with the role of savior or perfect counterpart. Jung's final message on the biological trap is a challenge to heroism. The hero's journey is not completed by slaying the dragon, the external enemy. It is completed by integrating the dragon, the internal shadow. Romantic love provides the most immediate and painful opportunity for this integration. The moment we stop blaming the partner for failing to live up to the projected image and start accepting responsibility for the creation of that image, we step out of the trap and onto the road of self-mastery. The true end of the biological trap is the beginning of conscious love. It is the sober, difficult, rewarding choice to maintain connection, not because of a powerful, blinding feeling, but because of a deliberate, ethical commitment. The relationship that survives the shattering of the projection becomes exponentially stronger, because it is built not on fantasy, but on shared reality and mutual respect for the terrifying, beautiful journey of individuation. This is the mature vision. Love is not a miracle that happens to you. It is a profound work that you must consciously perform. The trap exists to force us to do this work. It compels the internal marriage of the self. This entire exploration reveals an inconvenient truth that most people instinctively reject. This essential knowledge must be integrated immediately. We have exposed the mechanical nature of romantic obsession and provided the psychological framework for escape. Now the final, most crucial step is to solidify this insight. This journey demands absolute commitment to self-knowledge. To fully integrate this truth, proclaim your commitment now. In the comments section below, type this phrase, "I am retrieving the projection." Declare this intention and join the growing community of individuals who refuse to remain trapped by unconscious biology. Your commitment to becoming conscious is the energy that fuels this entire discussion. You must ensure you never lose access to these deep dives into human psychology and power. Immediately demonstrate your support for this movement by pressing the like button and subscribing to this channel. This action ensures you remain connected to the knowledge that will fundamentally reshape your existence. And be warned, the next psychological framework we unravel is the single most critical insight into how power structures operate, showing precisely why most people are chronically manipulated without ever realizing it. You absolutely need to know the next step in this journey of consciousness. Stay tuned for the unveiling of the next profound truth that will shatter your conventional understanding of human nature.